Eating meat is worse than using GPT, but that is not the whole argument. People have been eating meat long before anyone thought about a computer. People practiced many harmful things for thousands of years before computers existed. That does not make those things ethical. This is an appeal to tradition, treating the age or normality of a practice as evidence that it is justified. Slavery was traditional. Denying women rights was traditional. Child labor was traditional. These harms are not identical. The logical error is tradition explains behavior, it does not justify it. Now, someone will say, talking about meat when AI is criticized is just whataboutism. It can be, when someone mentions meat only to avoid acknowledging AI's environmental costs, but comparing two actions is not automatically whataboutism when people are explicitly making moral demands about personal consumption. Ethics requires comparison. We have to ask how much harm does the action cause? How necessary is it? What alternatives exist? How directly does one person's behavior affect demand? And who is harmed when that action is removed? Why animal products are structurally inefficient. Animal agriculture is structurally inefficient because instead of eating plants directly, we grow crops, use land, water, fertilizer, and energy to feed animals, and then consume only a fraction of the calories and protein we originally produced. Joseph Poor and Thomas Nemesek analyzed nearly 39K farms along with processing, packaging, and retail systems. Their research found enormous variation between producers, but even the lowest impact animal products generally exceed plant based foods across environmental indicators. That is why Poor concluded that avoiding meat and dairy is one of the most effective individual actions for reducing environmental impact. This is not merely about carbon. It involves land use, freshwater pollution, habitat destruction, and the deliberate breeding and killing of sentient animals. Industrial animal agriculture became a planetary scale problem when industrial production expanded to satisfy mass consumption, a want, not a need. Humans ate meat before computers does not answer what happens when billions of people demand industrially produced animal products every day. Consumer choice actually matters here. Food is directly consumer facing. When people stop buying a product, companies reduce production, reformulate supply chains, or shift towards alternatives. We've already seen this with declining dairy consumption in some markets, changing restaurant menus, and the rapid expansion of plant based options. And despite common assumptions, the cheapest plant foods are not niche substitutes. They are beans, lentils, rice, pasta, oats, potatoes, and vegetables, most of which have protein. Basic staples that form the foundation of global diets. Research from Oxford shows that vegan diets can be among the most affordable dietary patterns in higher income countries like America or Britain. Animal agriculture is also heavily subsidized in many regions through agricultural support systems, insurance systems, and feed crop subsidies. So the price at the store does not reflect the full environmental or social cost of the production. Animal consumption also creates harms beyond climate change. Processed meat is classified by the World Health Organization Cancer Agency as carcinogenic to humans. Red meat is classified as carcinogenic. Those categories describe the strength of the evidence, not that eating meat is exactly dangerous as smoking. Although not everyone that smokes gets cancer, doesn't mean that you won't get cancer. But they still contradict the idea that these foods are harmless simply because they are traditional. Higher heme iron intake from meat has also been associated with increased risk of type 2 diabetes, among other all cause mortality diseases. And the routine use and overuse of medically important antibiotics in animal agriculture contributes to antimicrobial resistance. People are now dying from staph infections because of what they eat. None of this means AI is environmentally harmless. Data centers consume electricity, require hardware, and may use substantial amounts of water for cooling. Those impacts can be especially serious when a data center is built in a water stressed community. Companies should be required to report water and energy consumption, avoid environmentally reckless locations, use cleaner energy and recycled water, and stop externalizing infrastructure costs onto local communities. Agriculture still accounts for roughly 70% of global freshwater withdrawals. Arctechnica exposed that AI is just a drop in the bucket to water waste. The major ethical failure in anti AI discourse is absolutism. A corporation trading massive models for advertising, surveillance, or spam is not morally equivalent to a disabled person using AI to communicate or survive. It is not equivalent to someone using AI to access inaccessible information, organize thoughts, compensate for cognitive limitations, write with limited mobility, navigate bureaucracy, study independently, or perform work they otherwise would not be able to do without assistance. The United Nations has recognized that AI can support assistive technologies, communication, independent living, and accessibility for disabled people. This is why telling a disabled person to stop using AI while continuing to consume unnecessary animal products is ethically inconsistent. One action may provide accessibility, communication, or independence. The other typically satisfies a replaceable preference while directly increasing demand for animals to be bred, confined, and killed. People in food deserts, extreme poverty, or lacking dietary control do not have the same freedom of choice as those with full access to alternatives, the average person. Circumstances affect responsibility, but they do not erase avoidable harm. Likewise, individual accessibility use of AI is not morally equivalent to large scale corporate development. Disabled people and regular people are not stealing jobs, that would be corporations. The answer is not simply stop using GPT. For AI, meaningful change comes from structural levers, regulating data center construction, requiring water and energy transparency, restricting placement in water stressed regions, limiting surveillance applications, protecting workers and creators, and improving model efficiency. Personal use still matters, but it is not the only or strongest lever. For animal products, individual consumption directly drives demand. So both personal and structural change matter, but in different ways. Ethics is not rejecting new technologies while excusing older harms because they are normalized. Ethics is consistently comparing consequences, necessity, alternatives, and access. Tradition is not moral evidence. All AI use is not equivalent. Disability access is not frivolous consumption. And before policing the survival tools of the disabled people, basically telling disabled people that they should just die, examine the unnecessary harms already normalized in your own system.